And if everyone in attendance would rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us.
Just so you know, Amanda is away, so she's missing tonight's meeting.
Yep, Amanda is visiting the kids and grandkids out in Colorado. And tonight we're joined by a few guests. Dennis Newberger of the Friends is joining us, and Leslie Allen of the Foundation, and our WLS trustee, Jonathan Marshall, is here. And Karen, was Michael joining us for the long range?
Yes, he just said he's going to be a couple minutes late, but he'll hop right on.
Okay, that's fine. The first thing on the agenda is Mr. Dennis Newberger. Dennis, thank you for sending us that update. Can you share any other exciting events that are happening with the Friends at this time?
It is very limited, but again, I have to say this, it is so good to walk the streets here in where I live and have people say, I cannot believe what the Ossining Library is doing, constantly and making programs available. So first of all, I wanted to say Michelle has processed the 2020 taxes. So that is done for this year. There's very limited activity to the homebound and organizations, but the American Legion has now started accepting DVDs. And the first delivery was earlier this month. And but the Peace Corps and Sunshine and the nursing homes are still on hold. Karen, any word on the Maryknoll project? Is that still on
They're
hold?
not quite ready yet. Brother Wayne will let us know when they're ready for us.
Okay. And the Friends had a meeting with Molly to go over the activities, for the coming year, and also how the Friends can work with the foundation on various programs. And the last thing, can we start the donation of coins? We used to have that coin box. So if families came in with children and they didn't have any change, the staff would give coins for the coin drop. And also if we wanted to have our own group come in like we did in the past for the coin drop. Is there a concern with that due to the COVID? And if there is, it's okay.
Certainly having the coins available is fine. In terms of having a group come in, that might be a little trickier to coordinate, but I think if you and I and the others talked on the phone, we might be able to come up with something.
It would only be like 3 or 4 children.
Yeah, and we might be able to come up with a time and some spacing,
Right.
a cleaning routine where we wouldn't have to worry. We could do it safely.
My 10-year-old, my 10-year-old neighbor, she keeps saying to me, when are we going back to the library so I can help the library?
Oh, that's
She loves to do things and say, is it helping someone? I want to be involved. So even if it's 1 or 2 that come down, we'll work that out. And that's basically it. I know Michelle forwarded last month all the financial reports. Are there any questions?
Dennis, Leslie shared with us that you guys were helping us in a huge way.
That we were what?
Helping the library in a huge way with the carpet.
yeah.
No, I know there's a lot.
But you neglected to say that. That's like huge, Dennis.
I know, but the projects and things like that. And again, the foundation is involved, and that, we want to work with the foundation to see how jointly, with some of the items and the repairs that have to be made.
Dennis, we need you to sing your praises a little louder because that's an enormously generous contribution, and we're very, very grateful.
It really is, and the Boudars is going to be spectacular.
Thank you. I will let the team know that, but it's helping a great cause.
Thank you, Dennis. At this time, if there are no other questions or comments for Dennis, I see we were joined by Michael Holmes. How are you, Michael? Unmute.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Great, thank you.
Well, we're actually at the point where we put you on our agenda. If you're ready and comfortable, and unless you need a few minutes to listen, and then we can come back to you, what works for you?
I'm good. Let me just share my screen real quick. I'm ready to give the board an update and answer your questions.
We're hearing lots of good things in the director's report about it.
Well, that's great. We're doing a lot of good work. So the last time I gave you an update, I just want to start here, level set. This was the timeline that we said we would be on. For the most part, we are. I think we may be behind due to the passing of the staff member this week. We meant that one of our strategic planning subcommittee meetings had to be moved. But I'm not concerned with that because I think we're making good progress. So if you look at the timeline, you see that we were going to give you an update tonight. And by the time that we said we would come back and have the plan ready for the board to give its approval would be in April or May. And I think we're on track to do that. Some of the work that the committee is doing that I'm really excited about, again, I'll ask Karen and Matthew to weigh in. We've started to actually write the plan. So we're using this template that I'm sharing with you, and it looks different than what you've done previously, but I hope it'll make sense as it comes before you in terms of the full plan. But we're taking action as we go. So we have a road map for the plan forward. We have built into the plan a reminder of our mission and our vision as a library. We also have a vision for the plan itself with a visual there. I'm not going to actually go through each of the points here because I'll send it, Karen has it, but I'll send it to you so you'll have it if you want to go into detail. But basically what we want to do is be very clear on what we're saying we want to do 3 years out from this plan. Doesn't change the vision of the library, doesn't change the mission. It just says aspirationally, where do we want to be 3 years out? And we put good work into coming up with something that we believe all of us, the committee, the full board, the staff, can tell any stakeholder this is where we see ourselves going and how it will benefit you as a member of the Ossining community. I think it's a good statement, especially the fact that we are talking from a DEI lens. So baked into the vision is a statement about who's welcome and meeting their needs. We also spent time, I'll skip over this one. We also spent time on having definitive statements around diversity, equity, and inclusion for the same reason. So when we're talking to anyone, when you're talking to anyone, you'll be able to say, we're excited about our plan. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion focus. What that means is this. So don't worry about anything else that's out in the atmosphere. This is what we mean when we say diversity, equity, inclusion, and the reason why we thought it was important for our plan to have this kind of focus. So we'll have that. So everybody will be able to sing and read from the same hymnal. So the work that we're unable to give you more detail about right now is this work that's going on. So we created the foundational pillars of the plan. There are 5. One will deal with finance. Another will deal with program services and collections. The other will deal with making sure there is equitable access for all staff and board members in terms of their development and ongoing development, because we care about the people that are doing the work of the library, and we want to make sure that they're continuously developing. Another one deals with how much and how we engage with the community and making sure that we're inclusive of all underrepresented groups. And then last but not least is how do we continue the transformative work and rebranding work of the library such that it is and continues to be the welcoming beacon of light on the hill. So this is, as I said, we've gotten through this part. All of the real heavy work lifting will begin. And this is where Karen and Molly, once we finish this next week, and go from the overarching goals to overarching pillars, we'll start to put the goals definitively, and we'll have goals that will be pulled in from the previous plan and new goals, but they will be very specific, measurable, and milestone related. So along the way, we'll have milestones in which we'll be able to celebrate as we go through the 3 years. That's the work that we've done so far. Again, I'm excited about it. The committee is working well, I believe. They're working right now. We have them working in 2 smaller groups. So we've taken the work of the goals and the tactics and the impact, and that's the work they're doing. So once we finish that, we will be ready to engage the staff, and the staff will have input into the things that will come back to them to execute. So again, I'm going to leave this on in case somebody wants me to go back to a particular screen, but that's where we are. And I think I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to meet the objectives from a timeline perspective of the engagement that you have with me. Karen, Matthew, any comments you want to add? Anything I left out that is really critical?
I think that you really did a good job covering it, Michael. I want to say that this has been a very engaged process. The committee work that you have us doing is really good and very important. And I also want to say that you're very good at keeping us on track, which is important.
Well, again, it's good when you have good clients to work with. We're in this together. Remember early on when we met, I said, we certainly have accomplished the difference between buy-in and commitment. We have commitment. Everybody's skin is in the game. Matthew, was there anything you wanted to add as a member of the committee and as chair of the board? Anything?
No, I think that the progress is good, and I appreciate the updates that the board at large is getting too.
Okay, I'll take again, at your discretion, sir. Any questions from the rest of the committee? I'm happy to answer them.
Well, perhaps not at this time.
It seems like this is moving along really quickly. Like, I'm really heartened by the amount of work that's happening during a pandemic, right? Because it seemed like the last time we did this, it just dragged on and on and on. And this seems to really be very directed and moving quickly, and a lot of people are engaged in the process. So that's good.
And I love the fact that the subcommittees kept getting mixed up and repaired. So I'm getting to meet more and more of the staff and people in the community, which is a bonus.
Well, appreciate that. Again, that's modeling the behavior we want seen throughout the library, right? So if we model that behavior, the staff hears about it. Karen's done an excellent job of breaking down silos, but this will help break them down further. Because again, when we get to the staff, we're going to do that same mixing. And that's also a way that we're living out diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we're bringing the different ways that people think together who don't work together. So again, evidence-based work, this is what we're doing. And I'm excited about it. One other thing, we have a list of organizations that we want to start our outreach and connection to. Again, I'd rather wait until the next update to give you that, because I got all that information in. And but I will say this, we're not looking to not work with any organization that we currently have a relationship with. We're looking to expand and deepen relationships. So as we're writing this plan, one of the great things about doing it this way is when we go out and outreach to these organizations to say, how can we partner more? How can we partner more deeply? We'll be able to say, and oh, by the way, this is what we're aspiring towards for the next 3 years. So we'll be sharing our plan while we're also finding ways to engage. Okay?
Very good.
Can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
I just wondered if you have any plans or a time frame for the trustees to have a conversation with you. I know you talk to each one of us, you talk to us individually, but it seems really useful and very helpful to have a conversation among all of us together.
My understanding was that was the purpose of these updates. So if there's something else that's wanted, I'm happy to do that. But when I come on to give the updates, that's how I was thinking we were having those conversations with Cinda.
Oh, okay, because I'm really sorry that I missed this. You must have sent it out recently to all of us, what we're looking at tonight.
No, I send this post the meeting. So I'll send this to Karen and she'll send this post. I don't send it in advance, especially for this week, since we hadn't really finished a lot of the work. So I didn't want anybody to get this in advance, because without me walking it through, it might not make as much sense. So I'd rather walk you through and then I'll send it. And if there's questions after this, before your next meeting, I'm open to anybody following up with me and saying, hey, can you go into this a little bit more deeply with me? That might not be a full board need. That might be an individual need. I'm open to that.
I also had another, well, I guess another question that's related. Did you have like departmental heads to converse together with all of you, or was everything on an individual basis?
So I met with the department heads individually, and I met with 3 group team meetings. That I reported on that too, I think 2 meetings ago. So I got all of the staff, both the combination of individual one-on-ones and group. Now, just to be clear, again, when we finish the next phase of work, the step after that is now we will re-engage with the department heads and staff and build in the details around the work. So we're going from the macro to the semi-macro to the micro. Once we get into micro, those are the things that we need to engage the staff in, because they will be the ones executing the work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I just feel that in other constellations of boards, we have at least had a retreat, or we've had an opportunity to be walked through what each of us feels about the library's direction or vision, or actually to review the vision with you and with each other. And so I feel like we've gotten reports, that's true, but that our input as a group, as a full trustee board, is not just to respond to questions or presentations, but to really interact with each other. I mean, to me, that's how it worked before when we had our process, is that, you know, we did have conversations together. So I thought at least we'd have one meeting as a full board to discuss whatever. And I realize you do a lot of preliminary work, and so then we're able to fit into that somehow.
I'm going to defer to Matt and let him kind of respond to that. I will just say we're building towards a point where we're going to give this board the whole plan. And at that point will be a full, robust conversation about the plan. So the plan is not going to be executed without the board having this robust dialogue about all the work that we've done before it approves the plan. So that's where we're building towards. So we will have an opportunity, but we're trying to get the plan to a point where we can have a robust conversation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt. You can, if you want to add something or take it in a different direction, I'm not sure.
Not at all. I want to endorse what you said. Alice or Karen, did you have any additional comments or questions? Cecilia, Shandi, anybody else? No, the direction that we're taking is a little out of the ordinary, and it's actually proceeding with a very good pace and a very good response. So that's why we haven't had the traditional approach that we may have done in the past. But the reality is that we haven't done this in so long, much of it is new. And we will have the opportunity to sit down with Michael in front of the whole board, but I don't know that we need a special meeting. I don't think it would last very long, as we are getting updates. But we can always consider that if you think it's necessary. At this point in time, I'm not so sure. Any other comments or questions from Michael at this time?
I don't have a question for Michael, but I do have a question for you, Matthew, because I do see the process in the updates, but I don't see, or I haven't heard, I should say, from board members in any way what it is that they're doing.
So a progress report in some regard.
Right, and I'm talking about board members. I'm not talking about Michael, because like I said, it's clear what the process is and what's being done. But I don't know, since we went with a way that all the board members are not going to participate, what are the other board members doing?
That's a fair observation.
I guess I can describe it in a general way. You know, we'll look at where we were previously with the prior model. And then I guess we kind of think about what that goal was. And then we kind of try to imagine what the new goal is. And we're kind of deconstructing the old model and redefining terms on our way to revising the new model with our new goals. So it's a lot of micro level discussions at times, and other times I get scolded. It's like, no, we're doing macro, not micro. So it's a lot of informational segments that we're just kind of considering. It's a work session, basically.
Let me jump in here, Shandi, to respond in a more, I think, constructive way. I think it might make sense to rotate the board members for these meetings. That way we don't have the entire board dominating when the staff is involved, and we're not trying to interrupt Michael's flow. But I think the key to your observation is that the entire board isn't directly involved and isn't experiencing what's going on firsthand. So secondhand reports aren't a good substitute. We need to do better. And
I disagree, because I think that changing people would be disruptive. What I guess, and again, this doesn't have to do with Michael per se, is that the board is not communicating to other board members who aren't participating what they're doing, what they're thinking, what, you know, the DEI lens, how it is, how they are moving along with understanding that.
well, what Michael's discussed is a result of the input of all the participants. So that summation we don't go backwards to break it down. We're giving you every step of the way on Michael's presentation.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add, maybe this will be helpful. So just context, when there is a subcommittee that represents the larger board, they're charged with doing a lot of the work as opposed to the full board. Now, maybe there's an opportunity for each member who is from this board, for Cecilia, for Matthew, for Karen, to Amali, to have more conversation. And maybe when I come on to give my update, maybe they can talk more specifically about what they're doing as board members in that work. So that maybe that's helpful. So for instance, when we can say, if I had stopped and said, okay, we have gotten to a point where we had great conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Matthew, can you walk the board members through that conversation and how and what you feel and how we got there? So that comes from a board member saying that. I'm just giving the high level, but I think the point is you guys want to understand how the board members are participating, if there were something that, and that's fine. I mean, these meetings are intended to be that. So I give big overview, but it sounds like you want a little bit more meat on from the board members in terms of how they're participating in this work. And what I'm telling you is all of them, every single board member is participating. No one is sitting there and just saying, okay, this is a staff thing. So when we talked about, as an example, when we talked about diversity, equity, inclusion, that was a conversation that was a lot of push and pull, because and I'm not going to get into individuals, but some board members said, hey, when we put diversity, equity, inclusion out there, the community can respond differently. Some people can respond and say, oh, you're trying to push a narrative that we don't agree with. We had all that conversation. We had very candid conversations about how they could be reacted to, which brought us full circle to an agreement on what we were going to say, how we're going to define each of those terms. So again, hearing what this is said, that what I just said, that could probably come from one of the people on the committee who's on the board who can say those things. And that would probably then satisfy along the way how a board member's contributing, because they're representing the full board.
People, the board members who are doing the work are Cecilia, Althema, and Matt, I believe, right?
Yes, those are the three members that are on this call that are on the board as well, yes.
Right, and at some point you're going to be doing focus groups of community members and some sort of survey as well, right?
Well, we're going to do focus groups, and we're going to do at least right now, we're thinking we're going to design a survey, but we think it will be far more effective to do that survey, not by sending it out, but by engaging people in with the question. So we want to do focus groups in which we're asking it. That was a conversation of the committee as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you're going to be soliciting a lot more community input. Right now, you're just getting aligned on the staff and the board parameters of the focus.
Well, remember, we're writing the plan while we're starting to execute. So we will start to now that we have enough to talk to people about, we will start to engage in the community. But we needed to get to this point where we could say to the community, we have a vision, we have goals. That's what we were building towards.
Great, thank you.
Follow up on what you said, Michael, and what Shandi said, and what Matt said. I guess what I was asking for was a trustees focus group. Maybe I didn't use the right terminology. And I really liked what Shandi said about not just getting a report from, the board members that are on the subcommittee, but having a candid conversation ourselves about, we're supposed to be helping put this plan together. We're supposed to be having some input. And so I realize fully that the three subcommittee members are participating and are supposed to be reporting back to all of us. But I still feel that we need to have a candid conversation about DEI ourselves, because we're not different than the community, but we do lead the library in terms of our roles as trustees. So that's what I was asking for, I guess, for us to be a focus group as well. And I had assumed that you would be doing a lot of work beforehand, and that sometime in April, maybe early May, that we would have our candid conversations among each other.
We can examine how that fits within the work. Again, I'm going to step back and say this as your consultant, not about the work. And so again, I'm brutally honest. I'm going to be brutally honest here. That seems like extra work. If you have a subcommittee, one of the reasons why you have a subcommittee is so that the subcommittee can represent the full board. And in your board meetings, you can get into, when I get off, how I work with other organizations is that you get deeper into the conversations. Okay, the consultant's off, let's get deeper into this conversation. Great, we have the work. You finalize how you want to think about diversity. Oh, now that I see that on paper, looks like we may not have gone deep enough in that. So quite frankly, that should be part of your board meetings. If there needs to be, if you need to peel back the onion on anything where we are so far. So that's why we give you the information. And you can say, let's peel back, let's go deeper. And then when we come back to our next subcommittee meeting, board members, Karen or Molly, can come back and say, well, the board really felt as though this was not as robust or this was not as definitive, and we can bake that in. So that's how I've worked in the past. I don't want us to get caught up in focus groups as the solution when you have regular meetings. So my suggestion as to you would be, when we give you the information, if you want to go deeper into anything, then do that as a board, and then charge us back with, through the committee participants, the full board felt as though there should be more deeper thinking around this topic, or this topic. And then we'll take that charge and we'll run with it. But I don't think you have to create something different. And then lastly, when I come on and I give my update, Karen will already have informed me, or Matt, that, and for this update, we do want to go deeper. We, instead of just the first 15 minutes, Michael planned to be on with us for 45 minutes because we want to dive into the vision of the plan a little bit more. We want to dive into the financial foundational piece, because we have financial fiduciary responsibility. So we want a little bit more time baking through that. All of those fit within the process that we're going through, if that really kind of summarizes it. But that was part of the reason why we moved forward with this plan. And so sometimes it's hard to move to a different way of approaching this work for boards. But again, that was really the purpose of forming a smaller group. And I can see when you form a smaller group how others feel as though maybe you're not getting the kind of flow you want. But we can solve that. We can solve for that. That's not an issue. That fits within the scope of the engagement. Okay.
To be continued.
Okay. All right, folks. Thank you. Enjoy
Take care.
the meeting.
Right.
And talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye.
Yes, we will discuss this further and we will provide more clarity and transparency for everyone. We're at the point of the meeting where we approve the minutes of prior meetings. We have 3 to consider: the February 22nd regular meeting, the March 1st and March 10th special meetings. Everyone was in attendance except for March 10. Alice and Althema were not present. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'll give you a moment to perhaps review.
Right, so I'm going to abstain from that meeting I missed. I think it was actually because of the COVID vaccine.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Matthew, before we do that, so what Michael was saying was that during the board meeting would be the time to hear from other committee members of maybe just what they think about the work that they've been doing, or what ideas have, come about. And so is that going to be after Michael leaves? Is it going to be a different part of the meeting, or a separate meeting?
I've actually been giving it some thought since he left, and I think we'll need more time than our regular meeting would provide it. I think that we want to have an opportunity to review some of his PowerPoints and discuss what our perspective was. And I would like to bring up again for further discussion the possibility of other folks taking turns in going to these meetings, because it didn't occur to me till you said it, how we disassociated part of the board from the process, even though these reports, but I realize now if I were on the other side of the equation, I find these updates inadequate, and I think you do, and I think it's appropriate to find a solution. So I think—
No, I don't find them inadequate, because I felt like when the people who were, decided that they volunteered, I frankly trusted them to, do what they're doing and to come back and share that information with us. I honestly did not think of it like, if I'm actually not there, then I'm not experiencing it. I don't feel that way, because I think that, everybody is capable of, sharing or, whatever it is that they're doing, with us. It's just that since this started, nobody said anything about what they're doing.
No board members have, you're right. And I want to say, Matt, I think it would actually be very disruptive of the plan to rotate board members.
I think it would be too.
Yeah, conversations have been had with the staff and decisions have been made. And I wouldn't feel prepared, or I would feel uneasy just showing up not knowing the conversations that had been had before and the agreements that had been made. And I think if you involve more of us in the process when you're moving forward, that could actually be more disruptive. But Althema and Cecilia, your thoughts?
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, because I know that some of us chose and how, and I just was going to say that maybe, you know, if, however it feels to make, and I don't want to say, I don't want to use the term to put at ease, but to have an update, because it, I mean, the work is nice, and to actually maybe, you know, get you guys' opinion or anything, if there was a time outside of our regular stated meeting that we as a board can talk and update on what we're doing. And maybe it doesn't have to be a Monday at 7, but if that, you know, if that would suffice, and then we can talk about the things that, you know, we've been doing, some of the assignments that we're working on, you know, collectively, and get input, and just that way it kind of is not just from Karen's point of view and her director's report. You guys also would get to talk to us on our end. So I don't know if that's something that you guys are interested in, because I'd be willing to do that.
Me too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's what we'll discuss, and we'll bring a schedule out and find a good time for that.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
thanks.
You really don't think you wouldn't have the time just to prep us after Michael speaks every board meeting? I mean, how long will that conversation really take?
Well, I guess we could try it at the next meeting and we'll find out.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Rather than making another meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you all who are participating, because I gather it's a lot of work. And thank you for doing it.
well, I appreciate the point that we need to provide more information. And we can step back into the agenda, if that's okay, the approval of the prior meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to accept and a second for the February 22nd, March 1st, and March 10th minutes.
Second.
Can you break out the March 10th meeting?
Sure.
That's the one that I have to abstain from.
Yes, you and Althema would have to abstain from March 10th. So the minutes then for the February 22nd and the March 1st meeting. And we have a second from Shandi and a motion from Alice. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
abstentions? No objections. It passes 6-0. The next date is March 10th, and Alice and Althema were not in attendance. I'll entertain a motion to accept and a second the minutes of the special meetings on the 1st and the 10th of March.
So move.
And we have Cecilia and Shandi. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or objections? We have one. Alice is abstaining, and Althema, and it passes 4-0. At this time, we routinely ask our guests and visitors if they have any comments for the public comment section. Jonathan Marshall of the WLS, is there anything you'd like to share with us tonight?
Yes, thank you for having me here. I just wanted to make sure, I guess the sort of the big news would be, speaking of surveys, there's a survey that went out on Friday to the library director and to the members of the board of the member libraries of WLS, with the idea of just sort of listening and learning, you know, how to basically to address communications, best ways to engage, interact, and just sort of getting the ideas of, again, library directors and the member library boards, you know, officers, boards. And did everyone receive their the survey? And we're looking at April 2 to have that returned. I hope that works for everyone. And good, so we can move forward, because we just very basically want to, engage, in better practices and idea and listening to ideas from you, from your boards and library directors to, and then with the WLS board to make sure that, we're doing the most effective communication possible. Good. The other activity we had was the advocacy day. I think just real wrap up of that very quickly is that we need more money. Libraries would like to have more money. Trying to figure out how easy to put that and quick and succinctly. And the good news is that the Assembly and Senate attendees of that event were very supportive of going after and getting more money, and for both the library fund and for construction funds. And the Assembly in general and the Senate in general also, membership, are supportive of that. And one of the comments that Senator, the Majority Leader Cousins made at the meeting was that the Senate has now formed a library committee, which essentially they've not had either. They've never had a standing committee. Apparently they had a library committee at one point, but it was not a standing committee. So I think Senator Cousins was very, I think indicating that that's an important step for the Senate to go along with the Assembly that has had a Senate. The Assembly Committee has had a library committee supporting very directly library issues and budgets and things like that. And the Senator Ryan, who was formerly the president, chair, I should say, of the Assembly Library Board, had recently moved to the state Senate. So he is the chairman of the newly formed Senate Committee. So there's some continuity there, which I think is helpful. So New York State money, still trying to get some of that from the agreement with the, in relationship to really what the governor put in his executive budget. The other part is that there is money coming to New York from on federal bills. And though apparently while the money's coming, there's still a lot of to be determined ways for the library to get access to some of that money. And so I think part of it is we're continuing to talk to the Assembly, the Senate members in each of the 38 library is important, and certainly Mondaire Jones, who is on the Education and Labor Committee, which is where libraries, as you know, comes funding from, will be a good person for everyone to get to know much better, much better. Also, the Trustee Institute, I hope everyone who was able to go to that attended and found it helpful. Now, if you were not able to go, I can get a recording of that presentation sent. I can send it to Karen, and people can listen to it at their convenience, if that would be of interest. Okay, so I will go ahead and send that. And the last part is something that, again, you may know about. It's Library Author Talks. Kate Meyer has been doing the author talks in sort of a very specific program. But what we want to do is expand the publicity than online, basically information that is being put together by Kate, and have that available for the Ossining, all the good things that Ossining is doing for author talks, to include that in the her author talks online. That way, getting more publicity for the talks that you're doing, particularly with Zoom, that works great. And along with the publicity and communication part of it, it's also ways to build other relationships with libraries to get together and put together programs jointly where you can start attracting different and more varied authors. And so I think we're trying to bring that together to benefit all the libraries in WLS, but also individually, you've got programs that you can put together. So those are sort of the activities there. And any questions that you have of me, of WLS, I would be happy to answer if I can. If not, get the answer for you. Any questions?
The Trustee Institute was very good. That was a good program.
Great, great. We look forward to doing others in the future. And good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any other questions or comments for Jonathan Marshall? Very good. And Leslie Allen, if there's anything you'd like to share, any questions or comments, the floor is yours at this time.
I don't have any comments. I didn't know about the strategic plan, so it was really good to hear a little bit about that. I look forward to hearing more about it. It doesn't mean that I wasn't told, it just didn't compute. So I'm happy to be looking at something like that and impressed that y'all are taking that on. It's important.
Thank you.
And by the way, Leslie, we're probably the first library that's ever done the long range plan from the lens of DEI. So it's really a very important initiative.
Very good. Thank you. We're up to the director's report. And Karen, before I turn it over to you, I wanted to comment that everybody probably knows we lost a dear member of our staff, Bonnie Katz. And what you may not know is that Karen was in attendance at the funeral parlor and made if you can make a lovely speech about someone who's left us, she did. And I just want you to know that she's very, very well represented all of us. So thank you, Karen.
Oh, of course, it was my pleasure. I'll start my director's report off with that. It's been a very difficult week at the library. Bonnie was well known and well loved, and we're all just sort of, we're working through it. So the one thing I will say is that our team is really great at working through things as a team. We've all stepped up to support each other, and that's been very, very helpful.
Could we consider doing a photo exhibit, at least on our website?
So yes,
because I have no idea of her prowess in photography and that beautiful picture you featured of the sunset in the tribute.
Yes.
That Mallory put together.
So we're in the very beginning stages of talking about how to remember Bonnie. Some ideas that have come forward are a photo exhibit of her work. Another idea that has come forward is a photography contest, like an annual photography contest. Another idea is an annual film festival. Bonnie is in love with film. And Diana and I will be meeting with Bonnie's niece next week to talk about some ideas, and we'll be talking with Ellen as well about some ideas of how best to memorialize Bonnie and remember her.
I'm curious, was the rest of the board familiar with her interest in photography? Because I had no idea.
She actually has a degree in theater and film from Rutgers. And I had a lot of conversations with her, and we did talk about photography, but in general, politics, the Yankees, it covered a wide range. She was very funny. I loved talking to her.
Yeah.
One of the things, if people go on the Facebook page, Ellen had posted a really nice little comment, and then others, you can really get a sense of Bonnie even if you didn't know her from the comments. She was truly a kind person. She was very funny, and she had all these talents and abilities, and her film festivals were really the first to have been brought to the library. Well, at least since I've been on the board that I remember. We did have other festivals, but she kind of kicked off the whole idea of having subject sorts of festivals, because we also had, you know, the Ossining discussion and film series as well. So she was really intrinsically involved in all of that. And so, and they were well attended. I went to a lot of them, and, you know, they really reached a lot of people. So.
Bonnie also came to a lot of ancestry events that we did, and she knew quite a bit about history and Black history. I had some very interesting conversations with her about that, and that's where I also knew about her film, her love of film.
So it sounds like we can do any and all of the things that you've suggested, Karen. I assume any of these will come for the staff. It seems that the combination of the film and the photography thing would be a nice tribute.
Yeah.
And a way to memorialize.
One of the wonderful things about Bonnie is that she was endlessly curious about so many different things. And that's a wonderful trait to have. And it's a wonderful thing to remember about her. So on to other parts of my report. I just gave you some brief buildings and grounds updates, nothing really significant other than it's a lot of waiting for answers on things. So that just seems to be the way of the world. Bob and I work closely together to finalize the draft budget proposal, which you'll be looking at later in the agenda. I can't say enough how much help he is with that every year, and this year in particular. Allison Robbins is back from her leave, so we are full throttle on our technology work. She is working towards putting together a plan for us on replacing additional WLS computers going forward this year. And one of the things that is in the budget, which I had discussed at the last meeting, are 2 technology page positions. This would be for most likely high school students to help with technological things, in particular, helping with one-on-one patron training and help, modified for COVID, of course, but also to help with some of the routine tasks that Allison right now is dealing with as far as technology goes. And the way we got those positions was we looked at our paging budget and we converted 2 regular page positions to 2 technology page positions. We also thought it would be really nice, a different kind of focus for a page position, which would give a high school student a little bit more direct patron access and give them a little bit a different feel of what it's like to work in the library. So sort of along with our whole idea of internshipping and mentoring. Something that we'll be talking about a little bit later on the agenda is recabling work that is necessary in our library. In addition, some new cables. Our library currently has Cat 5 cabling through it. Cat 6 is the standard now. And how can I say this? When our building was built, some of the cabling work was not the greatest cabling work that was done. So we're finding that eventually we'll want to replace all the cabling. This money, we can get federal money for this. We can get up to 80% of up to 80% paid for by the federal government for the cabling. So that's always a good thing. I want to give a big shout out to Open Door and Neighbors Link, who worked really hard to coordinate vaccinations for our staff over the last few weeks. Many of our staff were able to get vaccinated by Open Door through Neighbors Link, and it was really good. And then WLS passed along an opportunity for us this past Friday for Saturday, whereby Westchester County was offering vaccinations to public-facing government employees, and library staff fell right into that category. So a number of our staff were able to get vaccinated that way, and that was really good. And it's so nice that other agencies see library staff as a priority for vaccinations. It was really heartening. We're going to be starting the reentry committee again. We had used the reentry committee way back in the summer and fall when we were coming out of COVID seclusion. It's a committee of staff members charged with planning additional hours and services and things like that. Now that more vaccinations are happening and things are starting to open up, we're starting to talk about expanding our grab and go hours. Right now, we are open for service all 6 days of the 7 in a week. And for 6 hours each day, we're open for grab and go. For the rest of our regular hours, we're only offered by appointment. We want to expand that so that we offer more than 6 hours of grab and go every day. And we'd like to start opening Sundays. I went over the numbers with Bob. Financially, he thinks that it shouldn't be a problem. We've had some other savings this year. The financial concern was that because of COVID and because of the way we're staffing the grab and go hours with an additional staff person at each entrance, that it would be a little bit of a challenge. But if Bob says we're good, then we're good. For Sundays, and we're going to start looking at additional open hours as well. So I think that committee is probably going to start meeting, maybe not next week, maybe the following week, but in the meantime, I'm having conversations with department heads about Sundays. So I'll give you an update on that as soon as I have an ETA.
Karen, how do we compare with other libraries? It's my impression that we have more open access.
Yes, we are one of a handful of libraries who are actually letting people in the building. I believe that there are, I want to say 7 or 8 libraries who are letting people in the building of the 37 in Westchester County. Some of them are doing it. Some of them are doing a combination of appointments and walk-ins like we are. Some of them are just doing it by appointment. But by and large, most libraries are not allowing people in the building at all. So we're one of the few, which actually is making it slightly easier right now, because a lot of the other libraries who've kept their doors shut are having a lot of, they're going through the stages that we went through at the very beginning now. So that's good that we've been through that. We had an all-staff meeting February 24th. That went really well, and I've been continuing to attend the department meetings as we go along. I attended 2 circulation and technical services department meetings in March, which was great. Several of us are participating in the Library Journal Equity in Action, Fostering an Anti-Racist Library Culture series of workshops. The workshops themselves are finished, but we have assignments to do, and the portal is open for 6 months, and the assignments are pretty big. So several of us are continuing to work on our assignments with that and find it very, very, very helpful. You have gotten an update on the long-range plan. We discussed that. Later on in the agenda, we're going to be talking about the piano repair proposal. So we can discuss that later. I wanted to remind you that we were included last year, or we won last year. We won the Public Library Association's Inclusive Internship Initiative project. It's a grant program whereby we hire a paid high school intern for the summer. And the idea, and work with them on a special project. They get all sorts of training. We get all sorts of training. And the focus of this project is to recruit a candidate from a diverse background. The whole focus of the PLA III is to encourage librarianship in diverse populations going forward. This is a nationwide initiative, and I'm really happy that they're doing it this year. We were bummed out last year when we got chosen and then couldn't end up doing it. Westchester Library Association is part of the Project Hope initiative, and Linda Smith with the Westchester Library Association is the project coordinator. Project Hope's mission is to provide information and resources to people throughout Westchester County who are dealing with COVID, coping with COVID-related issues, in particular mental health issues. Westchester Library System is right now putting together the information for us to roll out. But one thing that Diana Lennon and I did say to Linda was we would like our site to be considered for one-on-one meetings with people. They will be scheduling like one-on-one counseling / referral sessions, and we want that to be available to our community. So she has our name on that list. Just a couple of highlights from the department head reports. The Ossining Perspectives program that Diana Lennon worked on with Joyce Cole, Black Life in the Community, the February program was very well attended. Althema was on that panel, and Gavin Thomas Walters was on that panel and was very, very well received. AARP Tax Aid is happening at our library. It's a little different than previous years. They are setting up one-on-one appointments with people, and they're very limited. The appointments booked out within a couple of weeks of them publicizing it. We're not sure now that the tax filing deadline has been pushed out. We're not sure if they're going to be making additional appointments. We're waiting on that. We're waiting on that answer. And one interesting thing that we're working on right now, we're working on so many interesting things, but this one is really cool. We're trying to be more intentional about the Spanish language outreach that we do in our community, making sure that we are representing what the library is doing with our Spanish speaking community as much as we can. And part of that is a move towards an online, or I'm sorry, an email newsletter in Spanish that will go out just like our English language newsletter. We do have our Spanish language Facebook page, which has been nicely followed, and we're doing a lot more posting on that. So that initiative is a group initiative, and they're doing good work.
I was just going to say, so that's no longer one person is responsible for it. It's sort of part of everybody's social media presence.
Right. The group's mission is to come up with an overall plan for the organization and then to roll it out to the departments so that we know, if we want to do this or that communication, here's what we need to do to make sure that it's translated into Spanish and checked, the kinds of communications that need to go out, where they go out, the timeline, and that kind of thing. Are there any questions about anything in my report?
Another busy month.
Yeah. Yes.
And the programs, I mean, the children's programs, the teen programs, the adult programs, they all sound really great, really amazing. And it doesn't seem like we're suffering with our offerings at all with regard to the pandemic. And I assume that we'll probably keep up some remote programs as well, right? Because we've seen an increase in our engagement from those numbers, right?
Yes, that's one of the challenges that we're going to face as we go forward, as we start being able to offer more and more in-person programs. We've gotten such traction with our online programs. We don't want that to fall away, but then how do we manage that? That's going to be our challenge.
I mean, Ignira has a video, she said, that had 700 views on Facebook and 400 views on Instagram. That's pretty unbelievable, Karen.
That's more touches than we've ever had, really.
Right. I mean, we've always had very robust children's programs, but they would hit 30 kids a program, maybe. Yep. I mean, 700 views and 400 views, that's like 1,100 views of a program. That's amazing.
Yep, that's right. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, the programming is very good. I try to sit in on as many of the Zooms as I can. I sat in on a cookbook, not cooking, but a cookbook class. And it was a very good turnout and very engaged viewers. I also occasionally will look on some of the social media sites and Ossining moms. The mothers are often asking, when is the library going to open? When can I bring my kids back into the library? And we have staff, I don't know specifically whom, you probably do, Karen, but they respond. They're on these sites also. And they encourage folks to come in for grab and goes or library by appointment. And I think the awareness is very high, so keep up.
It's my understanding the grab and goes are gone in an hour.
Oh, those are the activity kits. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gone in an hour,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yep. Those are very, very popular, and we're not going to be able to stop offering them.
And Cecilia, I wasn't able to attend Dennis's program. I had a conflict. But I hear that they taped it, right?
I'm not sure because we made the request and I didn't hear anything back, so I didn't follow up on that. I'll ask.
They did.
So,
Cecilia.
all right, I'll ask James for the link.
Yeah.
Karen,
Yes.
I'll let you go on with the meeting, but the one thing, is there anything about the piano renovations the Friends should know now?
We are going to look at one of the proposals that was, well, we had one person provide a proposal, a written proposal to repair the piano. She's the person who takes care of the piano on a regular basis. We had a number of other people who wanted to provide proposals, and we showed them the piano. We had them look at it and do what they normally do, but they didn't follow up with a written proposal. So I'm going to ask the board that they approve the repair proposal that Bridget provided so that the repair can go forward. The repair is going to take, depending on which proposal the board decides to approve, and I'm going to ask them to approve the more extensive repair. It will take several weeks to a couple of months to do the repair and the subsequent tuning that needs to happen.
Okay.
But I think it's worth it.
All right, we'll work with you. Thank you, everyone, and be
Thanks,
safe.
Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. Good night.
Good night.
So we're at the point of our agenda where we do committee reports. The first one up is the president's report. One of the results and insights from our own Board of Trustees survey was that the trustees have found the orientation and introduction for new members to be lacking. So discussions with Karen, it's been obvious that that's an accurate observation, and also taking into account the need to keep the upcoming schedule as transparent as possible. In the handout is a trustee calendar of regular monthly meetings with orientation for new members, and it's graphically looking like that. So very briefly, in the month of April, for instance, the new candidates' petitions are due, and the library does have its annual budget hearing coming up on April 19th. And the annual meeting will be planned during the next month in April. In May, the candidates running for office will, if they are new candidates, will be invited to observe the May board meeting. It'll be a formal invitation, and the expectation is that people who haven't sat on the board before would attend. The purpose would be to orient them towards the process and the business that we handle. On May 18th of this year is when the budget vote is actually held, and the trustee election as well. And in May and June, the orientation would continue if there are any new trustees for a board. The library annual meeting will be held in June. The date is not yet determined. But at our June 14th meeting is when the newly elected trustees would be invited to attend, even though they have not yet been sworn in. And at that June meeting would be a discussion of the upcoming July meeting. And July is important because that's the reorganization meeting. The reorganization means we elect officers and people join or are appointed to different committees. And that's when the newly elected trustees in July will take the oath of office. So it's laid out for everyone, and I hope that everyone will consider the role they'd like to play in the upcoming year. And by that, I mean any board positions. And any questions or comments on the calendar that's been handed out?
Sounds good.
I have a question on the calendar, but I think that just for the sake of things and us as a board, I'm assuming that the two are rerunning again and will remain the same. I'm unsure, but regardless, I think that we should maybe have a meeting. You know, I know it was said something like, and maybe I misheard, but not to have a meeting if we have the same people, but maybe we should have that meeting, you know, virtually, of course, that we would have if we had a new person.
Well, there wasn't a special meeting scheduled. Anyone who was new would be invited to observe the meetings prior to being sworn in and would be offered required ongoing orientation. We can have our own training and orientation beyond what would have been planned for new trustees. That's not a problem. What I intend to do is at the next meeting, have a small insert like this to bring everyone up to date on an item that became obviously overlooked from our survey, such as the bylaws, or nothing else comes to mind, but there are a couple of other points that needed review. And that's what I intend to do at every board meeting, take a few minutes just to make sure everybody is aware of all of these things. If we need to drill down in any of it, I hope it'll come up from that discussion. If there are no other questions or comments, we'll move on to the policy and bylaws and personnel, but the chairperson is not here. And Karen, we had a lot of the policies. Would the policy sent out to the committee or to the board at large?
The policies that you were sent today were
Right.
just sent out to the committee. The
Okay.
committee has decided to look at all of the personnel related policies. So those just went to the committee. The policy that's on the agenda to approve was sent out to everybody, which is the addendum to the pandemic policy and
Oh, the
plan.
resolution 85. Okay,
Correct.
but you mentioned something I'd like to share with the entire board. Of the policies that are being reviewed by the committee, the handbook, the employee handbook, is one that's long overdue. And that's something that we have every intention of tackling sooner than later. The next item on our agenda is the Finance Committee. The proposed budget is listed. That's something that we have in the handout, I believe.
Yes.
Were there any changes to what we received in the last meeting? You're muted, Karen, I'm sorry.
Yes, there were a few changes, not to the bottom line. I left the bottom line as it was, but I pushed a little bit more funding from, I had put a lot of funding into HVAC. There's still a lot more funding in HVAC than there was last year, but I took some of that and I put it into wages. I did the same with continuing education because some of the continuing education funds are for travel. And I wasn't sure that there's going to be an awful lot of travel next year still. The reason why I wanted to put it into wages was because we had really cut back the page budget and some of the clerical lines to make a full-time clerical position. And I was a little concerned about the amount that we had taken out. So I put a little bit of that back, but it did not change the bottom line.
So I just have a question in terms of the final version of the budget. I'm looking at the email right now from Kathy and I'm not finding it. Was that sent under the final budget? Because I see we're adopting the budget, right, tonight?
Yes. That should have been sent.
Perhaps I missed it.
let me see.
Also the one-page explanation as well?
Well, that's probably still being put together, right?
We don't have a one pager. We have the budget explanation, which is the highlights. I think that's like 3 or 4 pages. The one pager will come. I'm just looking here. Sorry.
Well, I'm looking in my email from Kathy. Perhaps I'm
Yes.
just missing it.
Yes, it's there.
Look at D2.
Oh, no, I know that. Oh,
Five
It's-
pages.
that's
Yeah,
meeting minutes. B2 is meeting minutes.
It was
Look under R.
R9, R90.
Yes, that's it. It's,
And then R90,
it's number
well,
8.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Now I see.
and then following it is the explanation and highlights document.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments under finance? We can go to buildings and grounds. I have a quick question in the parking lot. The wall that separates the library property from the building that houses the restaurant. Do you have any idea, Karen or Molly, perhaps, who owns it? That wall is starting to deteriorate and it looks like it's going to be in need of repair. I don't know if it's our wall.
That little, it's like a white colored wall. I believe, and Molly, you can correct me because it was erected before I came, but I was under the understanding that that was put up by the gentleman who owns the property next door.
Okay.
That's my understanding as well. And I did see some people who seem to be out there assessing the wall the other day.
Oh.
There was a group of gentlemen with tools and cameras and making notes. So he may be in the process of having that work done.
Good.
I just wanted to, if you don't mind, Molly, I'm gonna steal your thunder because I want to. I don't think you're in the mood for thunder tonight.
Oh, it's all yours.
Okay. We are busy assessing the HVAC for the modular spaces. Molly and I had a meeting with Clean Air and with OLA, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, to make sure that when we put up the modular spaces that the HVAC is adequate. There are some questions, so we're making sure that we do our due diligence, and we'll follow up more on that. Also, Molly is currently reviewing the proposal from OLA to move on to the next phase of the HVAC supplemental HVAC project. And so we expect that we'll ask for a building committee meeting probably relatively soon.
Good. Okay, very good. The foundation committee is up next.
The foundation, we've been doing really good. I'm like really happy with where it's gone. Leslie, I think she left. I don't see her anymore.
He did
But
leave, yes.
she's really stepped in there and really is really like driving the car. And Karen, if you can just tell us how much we made. I know money's like always trickling in.
Yes, so I believe our latest for the piano is $9,600 or $9,800.
And so now we're gonna really go and really go back to advertising for foundation members. And I know something is gonna go out to our library members. We spoke about other tools like other volunteer organizations and boards. But I'm really happy that it's going. I'm not surprised. I'm just glad that it's going good. I'm glad that Leslie is here and really helping because she really has that knowledge of how to really do things with fundraising. And I mean, once again, if anyone knows anyone, it will be good for our foundation board. You have us 4 that are there, but we're looking for people to sit on this seat and actually fulfill it and really run to help, help be an asset to what we're trying to do in the library.
And I just, if you don't mind, I just want to give a big shout out to Althema for lighting the fire under us to get this thing started. Like maybe a year, maybe it was probably like 2 years ago, something like that. So thank you, Althema. I think it's been really good.
Glad it's going good and moving.
Yeah, and the strategy seems to be like we did the piano fundraiser, and now we're moving towards raising money for the painting in the auditorium. Is that right, Althema? That's what I've written down.
We have the painting, we have some spacing. I mean, we have a whole list, so we kind of
right. And the friends are donating the carpet in the auditorium in the theater. And then also we're looking to raise money for modular spaces too, is what I had written down.
Yep.
But there are HVAC concerns that have to be worked out, right?
As usual.
Imagine that, HVAC concerns.
Yes, imagine that.
We just need a whole new one.
Yes.
The only
Yes,
thing I would
Althema,
add to is
we
that we're gonna
do.
have-
Thank you for saying that.
The only thing I wanted to add to from the foundation committee is that we have been talking about a concert to highlight the fact that the piano was rehabbed or repaired or whatever. And the discussion also involved when that might take place. And Karen says, you know, they're getting the bids. And I think that we all have that information, the Bridget Sims, you know, proposal and everything. So Leslie had said that she'd already had conversations with Miriam Risco about producing something for us. So that's very exciting that we not only raise money, but that we're going to be able to highlight.
I don't think we're going to be using the piano, though. The piano is going to be under repair for several months, was my understanding from that conversation.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
Leslie's going to go back to Miriam and see if she was wanting to use the piano. She wasn't sure that she did want to use the piano. One thing that we did talk about is, and I discussed this with James Trapasso, what in order to highlight the piano would be to have somebody play it before and somebody play it after. And if the difference is noticeable, and it might not be because of recording quality, you know, it's one of those things, but that we could use that as sort of a showcase.
I believe, Karen, you were going to go down and play yourself.
I am going to go down and play myself, but nobody cares to hear that. Let me just tell you, Alice.
I heard that Alice is singing as an accompaniment to your playing.
Well,
That would
I am
even better.
I am, if you might recall, I am Alice Cooper. So I have quite an array of albums and experience in the musical world.
And
I'll take you
school's
up
out
on
for the
that.
summer, right?
Almost.
So if there are no other questions or comments on the foundation, we'll move on to resolutions. The first one up is 85. Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the adoption of the Pandemic Operations Plan provisionally pending union input. Now, there's a little bit of a story behind this, right, Karen?
Yes, there's a story behind this. So you may recall way back in July, August, we came up with a pandemic policy and plan, which was very good and which we have been using ever since. Sometime in the fall, the New York State required that we put together a pandemic operations plan that includes specific language. And it addresses stuff that we are already doing and some of which is already in our pandemic policy and plan. Somehow or another, and you know, the state sent them something out and WLS was kind enough to send something out, but it passed me by. I think I was busy doing something else. And I was reminded that we are in need of this particular, I'm thinking of it as an addendum to our pandemic policy and plan to cover that requirement. It needs to be in place by April 1st. And we need to submit it to our union for their input. So I'm asking that the board approve this provisionally tonight, and that we can then send it to our union for their input. And then we could, I would ask the board to adopt it with any changes that occur because of the union input at the April meeting.
Any other questions or comments at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Can I just say that I tried printing out. I always print out everything because I have to be able to read it and highlight it and, you know, actually comprehend it. And when I printed out the pandemic operation policy, all I kept getting was a list. And basically it just says a list of policies. It doesn't say an actual OPL pandemic policy. So I guess I'm unusual that I'm the only one who didn't get an actual policy, written policy. I don't know. It's weird. It's just one page and it just has a list of the policies. And that's what comes up when I click on that link. But everyone else got a pandemic policy. You got an actual printout of a policy?
We're looking.
Usually that's never happened that I can remember before. So I don't know why.
I just want to say one thing. If you should all know that everything's posted on the website if you ever have a problem with anything. Just a thought.
Thanks, Kathy.
Sorry if I screwed something up.
No, I just wondered, did everyone else get it? That's all I'm asking. Did all of you read through a pandemic policy?
Well, I had seen it previously, so I didn't look at the email that came out on Friday.
The attachment that says the OPL pandemic policy?
I didn't look at it on Friday because we had received that handout previously.
Did anyone else read the pandemic policy?
No, I did not look at it either because I had seen it before. That's one of my flagged emails to go through, but no, I did not read it in detail.
Just let me know if you click on that link and it prints, then there's something wrong in my reception of all the attachments. But if you click on the link and you just get a list of the policies, then I'm not the only one. That's what I'm asking. Did anyone on our board read the pandemic operation policy? Anyone?
I'm looking at the email right
Attachment?
now. Yeah,
All you have to do is just click on the link, and if it
I know. I'm
opens,
just
and then-
I'm finding the
Lucinda,
one.
are you looking? Do you want to see it now so that you
Well,
can
we're voting on it, and I just at least wanted to. I mean, I know we voted on a pandemic policy a year or so ago, whenever Karen and the staff put one together, and that was fine. But I
Okay.
did at least want to review it because we're supposed to do that as trustees.
Okay, Kathy just told you where we can find it.
But I'm asking everyone if you could just respond. Did you click on the pandemic policy, operation policy, and did it come up as a policy?
No,
Can you
I
see
read it
that
in
in
the
front of
past,
you?
so I didn't open it.
No.
Open it? Can anyone? Do you have it, Karen?
I'm looking through right now. Lucinda.
It's one of the attachments. I think it's 6 or 7 or 8. I can minimize my screen and look for it, but if you just click on that link, does it open up for you?
Yeah, I'm just looking. Just give me a sec.
Okay.
Okay. So when I go to the email that was sent out, I don't see the policy. I see it says pandemic operations plan, OPL
Right.
pandemic operations plan, and there's a list of documents like you said, Lucinda.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
do
that's what I
see it
got.
when I go to the documents on the website. It is,
Okay.
it's got the same title, but it's it is the plan.
The old plan, right?
No, Kathy
no.
screwed it up.
No,
Sorry.
it's the proposed.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. I just felt like I was in an alternate reality.
Now I
For a minute
understand,
there.
Lucinda. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wondered if anyone else had read it, and no one else commented that they had read it. So I'm in the same reality as you are then.
So why don't we just table this until the next meeting? Is there a time limitation on this, Karen?
We're supposed to have it in place by April 1st. So yes, but if we can't do it tonight, we can't do it tonight.
But you even had a conversation with the attorney that the plan is acceptable.
Yeah.
And you can proceed with it.
Right, but I agree with Lucinda. I'm sorry I didn't catch that either. And now I see that, that I think we should table it until everyone has a chance to read it. Maybe we schedule another 10-minute meeting.
The motion is tabled. Until the
Yeah,
next-
Karen, is it substantially different from the other pandemic policy that we approved?
It's not substantially different in what we do, you know, what it says we should do, but there's particular language in there that's required by law.
Right, and
Upgrades.
I too have not, I agree with you, Lucinda. I have not read it, the revised policy either, and I missed that on the
I'm sure
agenda.
it's gonna be fine, but I just
Right.
feel like I can't vote if I haven't seen it.
No, I
And
understand.
so I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry.
We'll just schedule another 10-minute meeting on a Monday. Karen, could we do that?
There, the 31st is, we would need to do it soon.
Yeah,
So-
I understand. So
Yeah.
could we do something next Monday?
That'll be after the union meeting.
We can do it, well, the union has to get it and has to have the opportunity to weigh in. But if we were to do it next Monday, and
I'm not
what I'm
gonna-
asking you to do is approve it provisionally,
Yeah,
with the, you know, pending the union's input. So if that's what we decide to do, it's got to be okay. I mean, there is no other
Yeah, this
option.
motion's been tabled, so we can bring it up at another meeting.
so you'll just send out a meeting notice for like a 10 or 15-minute meeting on the 29th. Now, Kathy, you're shaking your
Is
head.
that enough time when, cause I mean, here, if we're saying that the union has to see it, is the 2 days enough? Or do we need to come back maybe sometime this week or something
We
like,
can do that too.
I think that, you know, already I've let it, you know, get so close to the deadline that I'm not sure that the union has enough time at all. You know what I'm saying? So I think if we do it this week or next week, it's not going to make too much of a difference. But it's really up to the group.
Well, is there another night this week that we could just have a quick meeting, and Kathy, you could set?
if we're
set an
saying
email.
10 minutes, then can it be at lunchtime? It doesn't, everything doesn't have to be
Sure,
o'clock at
it could
night.
be 8 in the morning. I don't care.
We can do whatever the group wants to do.
Yeah.
Right, but Kathy, you'll send it out to us.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Just do it this week, please. I'm going away next week.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
that's right.
Okay, well, everybody's online right now, and we know Amanda's in Colorado. So you'll get us the documents. Does Wednesday or Thursday morning work?
Mm-hmm.
Could we do something at 9 o'clock?
I can, either day.
I can make 9 o'clock on Wednesday.
Why can't we do it tomorrow?
Tomorrow I am jam-packed in the morning, but I don't have to be there. I'm just very jam-packed tomorrow. I don't have a moment to breathe tomorrow.
Tomorrow's bad for me. I have something midday and in the evening.
Tomorrow at 9, I mean,
I can't make it tomorrow.
Kathy would have to send it out to us tonight, and everyone has to read it and understand it to be able to vote on it tomorrow. Doesn't that seem like sort of difficult?
Johnny, does Wednesday not work for you, or Thursday or Friday? Well, Friday I have a standing 9 o'clock meeting.
Wednesday I'm open.
Wednesday's okay with me. Matt, are you available?
I'll make myself available.
Gandhi, are you available?
I'll make myself available.
Okay,
I
so,
have appointments and so forth every single day.
okay.
So Wednesday at 9. Thanks,
that's-
everybody.
That's for the pandemic policy.
Yes.
You've got
She'll
some,
send that out to us tonight?
Yes.
Or tomorrow morning, Kathy. I'm not gonna read it tonight anyway, so.
if I may, you've got some personnel and some other things coming up. Why don't I say good night?
Good
Yes,
night, Jonathan.
thank you, Jonathan.
Other things, take care. Thank you very much.
Very well.
Bye.
Night.
Okay,
Next resolution, number 86, personnel changes. Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following personnel change changes and conveys their deepest sympathy to the family of Bonnie Katz, which as a board we have done. Are there any questions about the library clerk position?
I forgot it's whatever.
There are no questions or comments. I'll entertain a motion to accept and second Resolution 86. We have Cecilia and Alice. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? None are exhibited. The motion passes. We move on to Resolution 87, approval of services by Baldessari and Costner for the audit of fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Anyone have any questions or comments about our auditor? There are none. I'll entertain a motion to accept and second Resolution 87. And we can table this item too.
Oh, you
And
need a motion?
we have Alice and we need a second.
Going once, going
We have
twice.
Cecilia. All those in favor of accepting Resolution 87, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or objections? There being none. I have an exception or an abstention from Shandi.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the motion carries. Move on to Resolution 88, approval of proposal for the rebuilding of the Steinway & Sons piano and the proposal from Bridget Sims, piano technician, for rebuilding the Steinway & Sons piano in the amount of $12,870.
Alcima, I asked that you make that motion because it's because of you and the committee that that's happening.
Well, let's open it for discussion or comment. Because Karen, you said there was more than one proposal.
Yes, I provided you with both. The one that I'm asking you to approve is the one that includes, which is the 12,000, what is it, the amount, $12,870. It includes restringing the piano as well. The other one for $8,460 does not include restringing the piano. I also included for you a printed description of what Brigitte would be doing and her experience in doing this work. She does this kind of work. She takes care of Juilliard's pianos and does this kind of work frequently for them, and has taken care of our piano for some time. She took care of it when it belonged to Camille Boudars, and she followed the piano. She came with the piano and followed the piano to the library.
I was just going to ask that. She came with the piano, so she
Came with
really
the
has a
piano.
vested interest in this piano. It's great.
Mhm. Yeah, we received no other proposals. We received a verbal proposal from Steinway and Sons for $25,000, but they did not follow up with a written proposal. And we received interest from other piano tuners and repairers, so a few of whom did come to look at the piano and to discuss the scope of work, but then after all was said and done, they did not provide proposals.
There are no other comments or questions at this time. I'll entertain a motion to accept and a second for Resolution 88 for the expenditure of $12,870 for the piano in the theater. And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any abstentions or objections? There being none at this time, motion carries. And we move on to 89. Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the library director the power to approve proposal or proposals for cabling and or additional Wi-Fi access point installation up to $20,000 in order to meet E-rate 2021 filing deadline. And the E-rate discount is 80%. Karen, there's a story behind this.
There's always a story behind this. Every year, and you can approve this or not approve this, and I will be okay either way. Every year, we have the opportunity to apply for federal funding for internet connectivity, which we did last year, and we were under a 2-year contract. So we're getting 80% of that funded right now by the federal government, which is great. We also last year applied for E-rate funding for the installation of all of our network equipment that NSC did for us, as well as our own Wi-Fi equipment. And we received E-rate approval for that, and that installation happened in the fall. We have the opportunity again to apply this year for E-rate funding for, they call it Category 2. It's installation of equipment and/or cabling. And so I put out a bid through the E-rate process for cabling for 40 cabling or recabling for 40 drops in our library, as well as installation of 2 outdoor Wi-Fi access points to accommodate people outside using the Wi-Fi. I am getting the bids in, and if you would like me to do this, I may need more than $20,000. The highest bid that I got in so far for only part of the work was about $32,000. And that was just for the cabling. So there would be more in addition to that. The nice thing, it sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but the nice thing about E-rate is that we get 80% of that funded, and we are responsible for 20% of it. So I'd like to know from the board what you would like me to do. And let me say too, if the board says, no, Karen, we only want to go up to 20,000, or no, we'll go to 32,000 and whatever, I can go back to the bidders. I have until Thursday. I can go back to the bidders and ask them to, maybe only give me half of the drops that I've asked for, and so forth, in order to stay under whatever threshold you think. And if you think, Karen, you don't want me to do this year, I'm happy not to do it this year. I will say, let me just say one more thing. We will need to do cabling in our building this year. We need new drops in a variety of places. And like I said before, we will over the course of the next few years want to recable all of our existing cabling. And I'll do that through the E-rate process.
So if I understand what you're saying, this is an effort to anticipate more usage by patrons as we move forward, and at the same time improve our ability to break away from WLS.
Correct.
It seems like a cheap price to get those things done.
Yeah, and I'll also add this. Part of what I'm applying for this year is called basic maintenance of internal connections. That's the maintenance of the connections, and it's something that I have already budgeted for in the new budget cycle that we will need going forward as we start to pull off more of WLS's equipment and go on to our equipment. So some of the things that I'm trying to get E-rate funding for now are things that I've anticipated in the budget without E-rate funding.
Any other questions or comments?
Question I have is whether you and Molly have talked to other library directors, and if this is in the ballpark, and if this seems reasonable, and if you're happy with this, I would defer to your expertise.
I've talked to other library directors who are going through the same process that we're going for, and this is well within, the bids that are coming back are well within what they've seen. Greenberg recabled their whole building. They're actually doing it this year. They applied for it last year. Crotona did the same. Mount Vernon did it a while ago. So when I checked with them, it's pretty much in line.
I suggest, since we need to do this, that we should do it, that we shouldn't postpone it. Is there any other feeling by any other trustee that we need to wait?
So if there are no other questions or comments for Karen, or Karen, if there's nothing else you needed to add, I'll entertain a motion to accept and a second for resolution 89.
Do we want to stick with the $20,000?
Oh, I think as it's written. Unless there's any amendment. Oh, Shandi, is that a motion? Or a second? Aha.
I guess we can revisit if we need to add additional money. Is that true, correct? Is that correct?
No, I have to file my.
Oh, you have to
I have to
turn
file
it
on
into
Thursday.
E-rate.
Mhm.
So we would have to come up with the 12,000 in addition to the 20,000.
No, what I would do is I would ask the companies to cut back on the work that they're doing. So maybe instead of 40 drops, I would only ask for 20 drops. Maybe we don't do the Wi-Fi hotspot or the Wi-Fi access points this year. Maybe I take that off of it.
I see. So it'd be a first step, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I just feel if this is well within, well within the budget expectation for this process, that we should vote on it tonight so you can get started, you would be able to then schedule it, right?
Yes, what I would do is I would award the bid and file the E-rate, Form 471 on Thursday.
When is that due?
I
I'm
think we
sorry?
should include the outdoor.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I hear a second? A second going once, a second going twice, a second sold, Alice. All those in favor of resolution 89, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or objections? There being none, the motion carries. The last resolution on our agenda, number 90, reads resolved that the proposed 2021-2022 budget and the Board of Trustees of the Ossining Public Library in the sum of $4,415,490 be approved, and that the Ossining Union Free School District be authorized to levy and collect the sum of $4,228,290 as a necessary tax thereof. That's outrageous.
That's a bargain.
Just as last year's budget, I meant to look that up and I forgot to do that.
It's
This isn't substantially
6% less.
Approved.
You want to do the math?
You can't do that in your head?
No.
Are
Nor
there any
can I.
comments or questions
Oh,
regarding
not Rain Man.
the approval of the budget, the upcoming budget for the next?
Karen, it was around 4 million something, wasn't it, last year?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on your sheet there. We show last year's budget, and then on your budget, the spreadsheet, this thing here, it looks like this.
Last year's budget was $4,163,175 was what was raised by taxes.
Wow.
So moved.
Any second? We have a second. All those in favor of resolution 90? Aye. Any abstentions or objections? There being none, the motion carries. The next topic is old business. We have nothing listed there.
I have a question. The survey that was discussed, the Board of Trustees survey, where only a small number of people had filled it out. Have we improved our filling out of that yet?
No, but we can proceed with the majority of the responses that we got.
Why don't we make a commitment that you send it out one more time and give us a deadline of the end of the week or whatever, or the end, so that we can move it along and take it off as, get it and discuss it.
Well, because I think that we already have seen that in response to the returns that we have a schedule and orientation for new members.
Okay.
And the
How
items
many
that
people
are
completed it, Matt?
I didn't know there was a deadline.
There were 4 or 5, I think, that I completed it when I completed it.
they went to Karen. They didn't come directly to me.
I can tell you in a minute.
There were 3 of us who hadn't filled it out when I did it. So I guess there's 2 remaining, maybe. Yeah, I thought we were going to have a discussion about it as well with each other.
So maybe we can make that a goal for our next meeting.
Are you gonna somehow summarize what people submitted or not?
I
There
know
were
that
boxes for comments, and so, of course, I always fill out a blue book. I always make.
We can go over it again. We dedicated a half hour to it, but we can do another.
how
That's
did we
fine.
dedicate a half hour to it? When did we go over it?
The meeting that we held when the
No,
results were reviewed.
my recollection of that was that we did not go over it,
Oh,
that we said we were going to have more people fill it out.
Different issue, completely different issue. We went over what we had, and as we got more, we would add them.
Oh, okay.
We've had,
That's
sorry.
okay. We'll put it
We've
on
had-
for the next meeting.
Yeah,
my problem with SurveyMonkey is always that I forget that you have to either screenshot each part of your commentary or whatever, or you have to cut and paste it and put it somewhere else to be able to save it. Because once you send it off, you can't retrieve it. So there's no way to remember exactly what you said. So that's kind of a problematic thing.
Okay. So that'll be on old business for the next meeting. And the new business, we have already discussed opening on Sundays. And we also have the item, the WLS Free Direct Access Plan for 2022 through 2026. That sounds rather ominous.
no, it's not. I gave you the draft plan as it exists right now. This plan is mandated by the state for WLS to put together every 5 years. And they do it in consultation with the library directors, and then they send it out to the boards of trustees of member libraries for a vote. I don't have it as a vote for you tonight because this is still in draft form. And then I will get you the one that has been approved for the boards to vote on when they get that to me. It lays out how libraries operate with reciprocal borrowing for other libraries. And it also includes remedies for libraries who are being overly used by patrons from other libraries who maybe their library has budget challenges, there are all sorts of reasons for that. It also lays out how unserved areas are given library service in the variety of ways that happens. So this is just an informational item for you now, but you'll be voting on it at some point.
Very good. And the Library Appreciation Day is this coming month, April, right?
Yes, it's during the first week of April. And what we've done, you should know because you're the board and it's from you. So I'm letting you know what you're doing. Kathy is arranging for staff members to be able to get a boxed lunch or dinner on one of the days during that week. They can choose which day based on when they work, and they can choose their meal. And then we've also, Molly picked out these really pretty, I should have brought one home so I could hold it up for you. These really pretty bags that are similar to the bags that were given out, I think in 2015, which were really nice for Library Workers Appreciation Day. They're sort of orange and white, and they have a little like water bottle holder on the side of it. So those will go out to all the staff as well. And there's enough of those for board members to have too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other comments or questions at this time on anything at all? Karen, do we need executive session tonight?
I don't have anything for executive session unless someone else does.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Molly or Karen, anything additional?
I don't have anything.
Okay, you've been too quiet, that's why. And does anyone else have any questions or comments at this time that we might have overlooked? Our next meeting is on the 19th of April. And of course, Wednesday. And with that, I hope we all can stay safe and avoid COVID and get vaccinated and speak to everyone soon. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Good night.
everybody.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hi.